On tonight's Wales at 6, classroom confusion, concerns over COVID safety as pupils prepare to return. And
hotels across Wales have provided emergency accommodation throughout the pandemic. Now there are calls for the homeless to check out.
Plus, how a Welsh charity helped in the mission to rescue hundreds of dogs from Afghanistan. Good evening, I'm Ellie Pitt. As schools in Wales prepare to welcome pupils back, there's concern from both parents and teachers about children returning to the classroom. Teaching staff say Welsh Government guidance on COVID measures is confusing, while some parents are worried about children having in-person lessons with rising coronavirus cases. Hannah Thomas reports.
Getting school uniform for her son George is the least of Rebecca Thomas's problems. She and George have a spleen condition that weakens their immune systems, and she's anxious about the return to class for all pupils.
They've had to be tested now, haven't they, before they go back to school, but that's only the comprehensive and the colleges. It's not the primary schools anymore, is it? But it is a worry. We've been on the 12 weeks shielding, haven't been able to go out do a lot of it.
Other parents in Caerphilly have divided opinions about the virus.
I think come the winter we'll see some sort of disruption.
We've all had COVID, we're double vaccinated, so I'm not as concerned about it now as I was at the start.
I think it must be stressful for the head teachers because there's just so much uncertainty.
Well, it's certainly stressful for head teacher Jason Hicks at Isloyn High School near Blackwood. He's opened the doors early for parents to come and get lateral flow tests before next week.
For the first time next week, we'll be basing teachers in their own teaching rooms again, and children will be moving in a sensible and organised fashion around the school to try and take that step back to something more like normality.
But he and other head teachers are unsure what the short-term future will bring. The Welsh Government says that protecting children and young people from coronavirus is a top priority. It had considered the introduction of so-called ozone machines in classrooms from next week to help reduce disinfection times. But it now says that scientists will study the results of early trials from these machines and advise whether they can be used in educational settings. One doctor supports that decision, but he's putting a brave face on in the wake of escalating COVID cases.
It's highest right now in Cwmtaf Morgannwg in people between the ages of 10 and 19. So that's the age group that is affected the most. So as young people go back to school, we are expecting to see a further rise. At the same time, we're seeing an increase in hospital admissions already. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen an increase of nearly 100%.
From today, Welsh classrooms will go from empty to full. But with COVID going nowhere, parents will be wondering how long their children will be staying in school. Hannah Thomas, ITV News.
Well, elsewhere tonight, it's been confirmed that people in Wales who have severely weakened immune systems will be offered a third dose of the coronavirus vaccine. Those over the age of 12 with conditions like leukemia, HIV, or those who've had a recent organ transplant will be able to receive the extra jab. But this is separate to the booster programme expected this autumn. Some businesses in Llandudno have been criticising the council for allowing homeless people to stay in holiday accommodation in the town. Emergency legislation was introduced by the Welsh Government during the pandemic to help get people off the streets. But there are fears it could have an impact on tourism in the area. Well, our correspondent Carol Green is in Llandudno for us this evening. Carol, talk to me about this because it's a difficult issue, isn't it?
It certainly is, Ellie, and it's one which divides opinion. If we look at that Welsh Government policy, it was at the start of the pandemic, largely to get rough sleepers into accommodation, so no one was left behind under the banner No One Left Out, and it says 10,000 people have been supported so far, some of them in towns like here in Llandudno or in other tourist places like Colwyn Bay and Rhyl. But critics say hotels intended for holidaymakers are the wrong place and they lack the support that many homeless families and individuals need.
The local authority and Welsh Government should put provision in place and funding to ensure that we have secure, safe accommodation for our homeless.
Where?
But not in the designated hotel zones.
Is that not just a case of not in my backyard, not here? These are your constituents.
They are indeed. But the point being here, designated hotel accommodation is very specific. You've seen how busy we are. We are desperately short, actually, of holiday accommodation.
Corrie Council says it's desperately short of accommodation. It's experiencing high demand for the homeless, 500 people looking for accommodation at the moment, and those charities working with the homeless say it can happen to anybody. If you lose your job, you get into rent or mortgage arrears, or your relationship breaks down, and the homeless need help and not hounding.
If the housing system was working well, temporary accommodation would rarely be needed. It's expensive, it's stressful to live in, it may be far from people's support networks, their work, their children's schools, and it's not to forget that 1,400 of the 6,000 people in temporary accommodation at the moment are children under 16. Living in temporary accommodation really affects their ability to learn and access education.
What this shows is that it's one thing to get people off the streets, but it's proving much more of a challenge due to a lack of affordable housing across Wales.
Carol Green, thank you very much this evening. Next tonight, former Royal Marine Penfarthing's operation to rescue hundreds of cats and dogs from Afghanistan caught the world's attention. Well, now it's been revealed that a Welsh animal charity helped in that mission by offering up a special transportation vehicle for free. Sean Jenkins has the story.
Chaos at Kabul airport last weekend, with last-ditch attempts to evacuate people. But there were efforts also to evacuate animals. Penfarthing's campaign to get the cats and dogs of his animal shelter out of Afghanistan provoked a mixed reaction, with some saying pets were being prioritised over people. The evacuation was quite a controversial one. But on Sunday, between 150 and 200 animals arrived at Heathrow Airport, where one of the specialist vehicles waiting to transport them was this, belonging to the Wales Ape and Monkey Sanctuary here in the Swansea Valley. And the dogs were then put in these crates, were they?
Well, that type of crate.
Right. Graham Guerin is the director here. After receiving a phone call from Penfarthing's charity asking for his help, Graham got into his van on Sunday morning and headed to Heathrow.
I had to be in Heathrow at 7:30 in the morning. It was quite hectic. There was 19 vehicles altogether, so they were parking it everywhere. We're animal lovers, so it was a minor thing we could do, but would give a big impact to the charity.
Graham then transported the 3 crates of dogs he was allocated to a quarantine centre, where they'll stay before homes are found for them.
All the dogs want to do is be loved. They came out of the crates at the quarantine, and they were straight up jumping on us to cuddle them. Well, they have a good home, you know. We've had numerous phone calls. People want to adopt the dogs, so they will go out of quarantine and to good homes.
So having played his part, it's now back to the apes and monkeys for Graham. Always on hand to help, whatever the animal. Sean Jenkins, ITV News, Swansea Valley.
Amazing efforts there. Now, South Wales's police's horse-mounted section are usually seen policing large events, but with most of them cancelled over the last 18 months, riders and their horses have been applying their skills elsewhere. Here's Kelsey Redmore.
Getting ready to go out on patrol. Officers Jody and Sadie and their police horses Clover and Hamilton are used to patrolling parks and beauty spots. But has policing changed during the pandemic?
We've been used an awful lot during COVID for beach patrols. We are used to look for missing people because we can cover the ground quicker than officers on foot, or sometimes officers that are in vehicles can't. We've still been really, really busy. We've just had slightly different things to do. So we haven't had the events, which is normally sort of bread and butter this time of year. But we have been used an awful lot to access areas to advise the public in relation to the restrictions.
It's been bizarre, sort of going from your normal crimes that you see out and about, antisocial behaviour. I mean, everything had sort of like stopped. That is creeping back in now and back to, how things used to be with the restrictions easing. But it's been a completely different way of policing.
How important is it to be out on patrol and for people to see you on horseback?
It's a massive impact. In every community that we've worked, being on the horses, we've always had the positive feedback of, oh, it's lovely to see you. We would like to see more of you in the area. I think, unfortunately, people don't remember maybe two officers walking down the street as much as they would sort of remember seeing a couple of police horses, in exactly the same situation. So obviously we're police officers at the end of the day, so we need to be out on patrol.
But being out on patrol has also been good for the horses. Police horse Clover is still in training, and Hamilton is showing him the ropes.
The last time we brought him here, there wasn't as many people here. He's had lots of people on push bikes coming past him today. And it's been great for his training because he loves people. So for him to stand early, it's one of the most difficult things you can teach a police horse is to stand still. So for him to stand early and have all the children around him with the skateboards and the noise, and you can just see that he loves the attention. I think sometimes he thinks they're all there to see him, which is great. Makes my job a lot easier.
There are horses out on patrol across South Wales every day. And they're allowed days off too, just like the officers. So they can have a well-earned break before hitting the road again. Kelsey Redmore, ITV News.
Weather time now, here's Ruth with the forecast.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Weather-wise then, a case of more of the same out there today, although thankfully we did manage to catch some blue skies and sunshine. And over the next few days it's looking really rather hit and miss as far as the sunshine is concerned. So if you do see blue skies, make the most of them. High pressure still clinging on out there, centred to the north of the UK, allowing the cloud to seep its way into northern and eastern fringes. Over the next few days though, the winds will become more southerly. That's good news because it means the temperatures will start to rise. We lose that northerly airflow. And then as we head into the weekend, we do have a number of frontal systems that'll start knocking on our door, not bringing much in terms of rainfall, but certainly cloudier skies. So as I said, make the most of any sunshine if you manage to catch it. Some lovely evening sunshine for much of Wales out there at the moment, but actually the cloud will continue to seep in as we head through into the overnight stretch. High level cloud, nothing at all to worry about. But actually at this time of the year, under clear skies, feeling very autumnal, so we could feel quite a chill. Lows in more sheltered spots tonight of around 8 or 9 degrees. Bit of a shock to the system, setting us up for quite a chilly start to tomorrow morning. A little bit murky in places, but on the whole, Friday, courtesy of that high pressure, is shaping up to be a really rather lovely day. If you manage to catch the sunshine, the temperatures will respond. We're looking at highs tomorrow of up to 21 degrees. For the time of year, that is not bad at all. And those temperatures, as I mentioned, will continue to rise as the winds become more southerly. So as you can see, into the weekend, a generally dry story. The outside chance of a shower or two ahead of those frontal systems. Cloudy skies, but into the start of next week, the temperatures continue to rise. We could see highs of up to 23 degrees. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Cymru Wales weather.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Good night.